Hemmingson, otherwise known as Dr. Hem or Doc H. This is the Wednesday night Doc H's Wednesday night late night news of the weird and the weirder. I do this each Wednesday night at midnight when Sean David Morton is off. Like to keep it weird, man. Keep it weird. I wasn't here last week, but I'm here this week. I'm here. I'm whole. I'm one with the city. I'm back in the United States. Anyway, let's see, what's going on? What's going on that's really weird out there? Sort of weird, somewhat weird, kind of weird, a little different. Here's something that caught my attention. Lesbian fakes attack in which she carved anti-gay slurs into her skin. This is coming from the Associated Press in Lincoln, Nebraska. And the story goes, a former University of Nebraska women's basketball star faked an attack in which she allegedly carved anti-gay slurs into her skin because she felt it would spark change, police said on Tuesday. 4 days before Charlie Rogers, that's what she calls herself, Charlie Rogers, crawled naked and bleeding from her Lincoln home screaming for help, she outlined in a Facebook posting what investigators believe was her motive for faking the July 22nd attack, Police Chief Jim Peshong said at a news conference. I don't know what just happened. I just lost my story. I guess it was, I guess Huffington Post automatically refreshes. Okay. And this was what was written on her Facebook, Charlie Rogers. She wrote, "So maybe I am too idealistic, but I believe way deep inside me that we can make things better for everyone. I will be a catalyst. I will do what it takes. I will. Watch me." And this was from July 18th. Furthermore, genetic testing on evidence gathered at the crime scene undermines Rogers' account of what happened. Charlie Rogers, 33, pleaded not guilty yesterday to making these false police report and was released on her own recognizance. She didn't respond to a message seeking comment left at a number listed as hers, but her lawyer, Brett MacArthur, says she maintains the attack happened and plans to vigorously defend herself. This has been a very traumatic event for her, and having the focus of an investigation turned toward her has been really hard, said MacArthur, who described Rogers as a reserved and soft-spoken and not the type to seek attention. She has no reason to lie about what happened. She's pretty devastated when you go to the authorities and these things just kind of get turned around on you, he said. Charlie Rogers, a lesbian who ranked second all-time in blocked shots for the Cornhuskers, that's the women's basketball team of the University of Nebraska, reported the attack amid a charged debate in Lincoln over the city's proposed fairness ordinance, which would ban discrimination against gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender people. The city council approved the ordinance in May, 5-0, but two conservative groups gathered enough signatures to force a popular vote on it before it could take effect. According to police, Rogers said, according to police and her report, Rogers claims that three masked men broke into her home and that one of them pinned her down while another sliced a cross into her chest, cut the front of her thighs and shins, and carved derogatory words in her arms and abdomen. She said they then rolled her onto her stomach and cut her buttocks, the back of her thighs, and the back of her right calf. She also said they tried to burn her house down. Rogers crawled from her home naked, bleeding, and screaming for help, a neighbor told police. The community's gay community responded swiftly, and hundreds turned out for a rally that weekend outside the state capitol. On Tuesday, 4 Nebraska gay rights groups that followed the case released a joint statement crediting police for conducting what they believe was a balanced and thorough investigation. "It's important not to focus on the actions of any single individual," the groups said in a statement. "As residents of Lincoln, we must continue to bring our community together to declare that violence and hate are not the values of our city." According to Peshong, police found a pile of clothes, white knit gloves, and a red box cutter on the living room floor after the alleged attack. Rogers said the gloves didn't belong to her, but investigators determined that a lot of the DNA found inside the glove was indeed Rogers, and none of it came from a male. Peshong said investigators discovered that Rogers deleted numerous text messages she had sent the evening of the alleged attack, and that she bought cotton gloves, a box cutter, and zip ties from the Ace Hardware store in Lincoln on July 17th. All of the items were later found in her house, he said. When confronted about the evidence weeks later, Rogers admitted to purchasing all of the items except the gloves. She also sent a photo of a cross-shaped cut on her chest to a friend a few days before the reported attack. Investigators say they found no apparent sign of the struggle in the living room where Rogers said she was attacked, and no blood on the sheets where the cutting allegedly took place. An FBI forensic pathologist concluded that Rogers either cut herself or allowed someone else to do it. Peshong said the department spent thousands of dollars investigating the case, but he stressed that the case will not undermine the department's trust in people who report hate crimes. The FBI, the Bureau of Fire Prevention, and Lincoln Police Department have spent exorbitant amount of time and personal resources investigating this, he said. We aggressively investigated this. Every day since the incident has happened, there have been investigators working on trying to identify who these assailants are. Well, let's look at this as a moment. As a false flag incident. I guess we could call it that. So let's take, for instance, the side of the police, and that this was a faked. And certainly, a lot of the evidence is pointing towards it. That she self-mutilated herself and faked an attack in order to rally up support for anti-violence, anti-discrimination for lesbians, gays, transgender, bisexual people, etc. Is this responsible? Is this? She's following here. For instance, it's like the case with those basketball players who had their lives turned around when that hooker made a false case of gang rape. I'm sure you guys all remember that story. And then when it found out she made it all up, she had charges against her. But it destroyed these guys' lives and their academic status, and family. Now, say for instance this is fake, and then the police somehow arrest a guy or three guys that they think might have been the alleged assailants. And these guys' lives get tossed to hell. And then, she has people rallying and having a protest in her honor over a fake incident. We see our government doing it all the time. Say we got the false flag event of something to rally people over going to war. Using that as an excuse. Now, is this a proper excuse for someone to call to enlighten the public about violence against alternative sexuality people? No, it's not. This is she. If it turns out that she faked it all, yeah, she should be prosecuted. She should be ordered to pay all the expenses of the investigation. I mean, these officers and FBI agents could have been out there, investigating a real crime. They weren't out there, and someone got hurt, someone got attacked because they weren't there, because this woman, this basketball star lesbian, decided she wanted to be a radical activist and self-mutilate herself. I think Harp did it. Maybe she was a clone. They said that somehow her buttocks and stuff were cut, but what if they had tattooed her right there? It just seems that we can't get away from this whole anal tattoo thing. It started up by Justin and Jason and Angela Black. Hey, I had nothing to do with it, But it's someone wrote an editorial in defense of anal tattoos, and Maria Louise del Rosario. This is an editorial by Seth Matlins, the co-founder of Feel More Better, and the Huffington Post has linked it. So let me bring it up. Maybe we should wait for this one for tomorrow. You know what? I'm gonna wait for this one for tomorrow. Wait a minute. Let me just look at it for a moment here. Hang on. I'm pulling it up. This computer's acting a little slowly here. So that seemed to be like a major theme last week here on Revolution Radio. Was the whole thing about anal tattoos. From the woman who was on exhibit at an annual tattooing event. So this guy, Seth Matlins, writes, I have a tattoo, but not on my anus. Maria Luis del Rosario has a tattoo on her anus. Two, as it turns out, though one is apparently over the other, so perhaps that only counts as one. I'm not really sure. Miss del Rosario seems to have made an indelible impression as the girl with the anal tattoo. Pictures of her bikini-clad and suggestive of being in tattoo flagrant have made the rounds of the interwebs, as well as the radio stations, eh? But why are we so taken by her choice of tattoo placement? Is it because we cringe at the presumed pain and feel like we have to share our collective ouch in the social media reflex? Is it because we all still like to say anus? It is a fun word, kind of like an ode to our inner 12-year-old. Or is it because, for some, the anus still remains one of the last sexual roads less often traveled? Whatever, frankly, I'm a little envious of Maria's comfort with who she is, what she's done, and where she's done it. Not only is she talking about her anus out loud, she's talking about it, what she's done with it. Who else do you know who's done that, and in the media no less? Most of the people I know would rather fake an appendectomy than admit to having a go poop. Admitting to after, yeah, anyway. Admit it. You judged her. All right, I'll admit it. I did. At first, I judged her and thought to myself, who in the world would tattoo themselves then and then actually let themselves be talked about it as having done it? Maria Luis del Rosario, apparently, and I say, you go, girl. Inhibitions, insecurities, and self-consciousness rob too many of us of the joy of living fully and doing what we want, whether or not what we want includes inking up an orifice. If you had no inhibitions, no insecurities, no fears of being judged, would you live differently, or do you do something differently? I'm not saying you'd rush out and get an anal tattoo, but if you're like so many of us, at least something would probably be a little different. So maybe instead of putting the scarlet letter A on Maria, we should applaud her for living her life, not caring what we think, but about what she wants. We can be so quick to judge, and I am amongst the we. But what are we judging? She did what she wanted, and it didn't hurt anyone else. Why judge? Disagree? Sure. Not understand? Fine. But why do we care enough to make it viral? Are we envious? If not, of the act and then of the abandoned? I'll confess to being uncertain based on the little I've read about exactly why she'd chosen to get and share the getting of the tattoos. One article quotes Maria as saying her past suffering, quote, gave me a free pass to live however I want and have fun, unquote. Suffering aside, and I am in no way do I mean to diminish suffering, if life and the pursuit of happiness that gives us the permission to live how we want and have fun. Why do we need to suffer to have a free pass? We do not. So go on and get an anal tattoo, you people out there, or skydive, or quit your job, or write that book, or have sex with a stranger, or stay home from work to spend time with your kids, or dip your sushi in chocolate. Do what makes you feel good, and live how you want, so long as you won't regret doing it or feeling good about it. Why let anyone hate on your happy if it doesn't hurt them? It's your happy after all. As for me, I don't want an anal tattoo, but I say we ought to appreciate Maria, not mock her for doing what she wanted, even, or maybe especially, if we don't understand it. I agree with Mr. Seth Matlins. We are free people. Supposedly, still, free will, free to do what we want with our bodies. And certainly if you've seen some like really extreme tattooing and piercing in that world, usually called a tribal piercing or tribal tattoos. They get radical, the illustrated man sort of thing. Hey, it's your body. You can make your body into a work of art. Why not? Even if it is in the pooper. Which brings to mind another story that I see up on Drudge is that there's some sort of infected ink that tattoo infections linked to contaminated ink out there. Well, let's hope the contaminated ink that wasn't used for Maria del Rosario's tattoo. Excuse me while I wet my whistle. Okay. My whistle is fine. So what else is going on out there? Hang on a second. Okay, how about this? Here, lab tech parties with escaped monkeys. University employee found with pants down, monkeys roaming free. This is monkeying around, yes. Georgia Health Services University lab tech was recently discovered in a campus locker room engaging in unusual behavior. Authorities said 32-year-old Coley Mitchell was jailed after he was found intoxicated with his pants down in a locker room in the Sanders Research and Education Building, while 2 lab monkeys were found roaming free outside their cages, the Augusta Chronicle reported. This is Augusta, Georgia. Mitchell was booked into Richmond County Jail on charges of public intoxication. The monkeys were examined and found to be unharmed. Monkey business. Hey, so if you want to party with monkeys with your pants down and no one gets hurt, what's the problem? Free country. I guess, maybe it was against, research ethics and stuff like that. Let me see here. Okay. Texas judge preparing for civil war if Obama is reelected. This is coming from CBS, Lubbock, Texas. A Texas leader is warning of what he calls a civil war and possible invasion of United Nations troops if President Barack Obama is reelected. Lubbock County Judge Tom Head, or however it's pronounced, is convinced that Mr. Obama winning a second term would lead to revolt by the American people, and he's pushing a tax increase for the district attorney's office and Lubbock County Sheriff's Office. He says the money is needed to beef up its resources in case President Obama wins the November election. In the event of civil unrest, Judge Head said he is concerned the president would hand over sovereignty of the United States to the United Nations and that the American public would react violently. He's going to try to hand over the sovereignty of the U.S. to the United Nations. What's going to happen when that happens? Judge Head told Fox 34 in Lubbock, Texas. I'm thinking worst case scenario, Judge Head explained. Civil unrest, civil disobedience, civil war. We're not just talking a few riots or demonstrations. The West Texas judge's proposed tax increase is to help the sheriff's office hire a few law enforcement large enough to protect the county and drive away the invaders. I don't want rookies, Head said flatly. I want trained, equipped, and seasoned veteran officers to back me. The Republican judge said that he himself will meet the enemy in front of their armed personnel carriers to tell them that they are not welcome, and has the county sheriff to back him. I don't want UN troops in Lubbock County, he said. Tom Head, a graduate of Highland Park High School, has been a county judge since 1999. Sounds like election campaign disinfo or something, but who knows? A lot of people are certainly saying that. And now our good friend and new idiot, savant or idiot de jure, John Moore over at RBM, who said August 17th there would be giant tidal waves and the militaries would be pulled out from the coast and this heavy mass object was coming. Well, August 17th came and went and nothing happened. So now Mr. Moore is I'm not taking calls right now. Sorry. Transfers by Nighthawk. Okay, well, I let me try this. No, I'm on some weird Skype that I can't take calls. I have an old version of Skype on this Macintosh, and it doesn't say transfer call. Wait a minute. Maybe I'll try to figure out. Okay, I'll take calls after the break, and I'll try to figure it out. Okay. Where was I? John Moore. So John Moore, said all about that. Heavy mass object, doom, gloom, destruction. And now Mr. Moore is saying that Russian troops are going to invade from Canada within the next few weeks. Of course he says, this is the stuff I'm getting from sources, blah, blah, blah. I'm just like Drake says, I'm just the messenger, I'm not responsible for people giving me false information. No, you are responsible messenger. You're not delivering messages that are in sealed envelopes. You are delivering disinfo and saying that that it comes from reliable sources, and get people all riled up and scared and worried, and then nothing happens, and then you guys never apologize or even really admit that you were wrong. You just go on to the next thing. So John Moore is now saying the Russian troops are going to invade. Now, I could buy that. I do know about the Chinese troops down in Mexico, whether they're on the border and whether they're planning to invade or not, I don't know. The Chinese consulate says they're down there for training purposes, and they've been down there for quite a while. We do know that Russian troops are in Canada, probably some Chinese troops. Is there really an invasion coming around the corner? Probably not, at least not in the foreseeable future. A lot of people don't realize just how long it takes to amass an invasion force, and it doesn't go unnoticed. Of course, John Kettler says that the Chinese have this Draco's tech where they could transport 100,000 soldiers in tanks in a second from one point in the world and the other. Okay, maybe they can, but in more practical terms, I mean, look how much effort. I mean, look how people are noticing how the Army, military, Navy, and Air Force are mobilizing right now to go to Syria in the Middle East and all that. I don't know. So basically, I was getting off track here. We have this Lubbock County judge saying the UN troops are going to invade the U.S. if Obama is reelected. John Moore says we're going to get invaded. So the next is going to be the alien invasions, which I can buy the alien invasions. I'm into aliens. I've met aliens. I've seen them. I know of them. I just don't think they're a bunch of invaders. Otherwise, they'd do it right now. The other thing going around the net right now is Hurricane Isaac. Good old Isaac, or however you want to call him, is this hurricane is building up, or the storm, which is building up to a hurricane, and likely to hit Tampa, Florida. And now they're saying that the Republican convention could be postponed. The mayor of Tampa says he's absolutely prepared to call off the convention. Does it seem like a HARP thing? Is it weird news? It is. Maybe do they want the Republican convention to be postponed for purposes unknown, purposes to ponder about amongst all us tin hat wearers? Sure. We could say that Obama and friends have control of HARP. They're harping the Hurricane Isaac to stop the convention, or even all of them. All of them are in cahoots with it. So we'll watch. Hurricane Isaac supposedly will hit Florida on Monday after it devastates a bunch of islands and stuff, and so we'll keep our eye on Ike. Ike is short for Isaac, as well as Eisenhower, and we'll see what Ike is up to. What else here? We have from the BBC. a possible. Actually, we have two things from the BBC. One is about Prince Harry being naked, and one is a huge fire that was in London, biggest fire ever in London apparently. And now a lot of people are saying that the fire was to destroy evidence for some sort of false flag thing that did happen during the ceremonies. The word out there right now is that the people in either the opening or closing of the Olympic ceremonies were infected with some sort of virus that won't activate till 27 days later. Who knows? So why do I keep saying that? I hate that phrase, who knows? Please deduct $1 from my account or something. Nighthawk out there, deduct my paycheck every time I say who knows, okay? Okay, so the story says more than 200 firefighters have tackled a blaze described by London Fire Brigade as the biggest scene in the capital for several years. The brigade was called at about 1:15 British Standard Time when the flames took hold of a recycling center in Dagenham, which is east of London. Smoke was visible for miles as a single-story building burned, but there were no injuries. The brigade said fire cover at Olympic venues had not been affected. There were initial reports that people could smoke from the Olympic Park, approximately 6 miles away. The closing ceremony got underway at 2100 British Standard Time, but the BBC Weather Centre said the wind was likely to take the smoke northwards during the evening, away from the stadium. London Fire Commissioner Ron Dobson said, "We've not seen a fire of this size in London for several years. It's certainly a dramatic end to the Olympics for the fire brigade." That said, though, we are still able to attend incidents across the capital, and the fire cover were, well, whatever, get into all that. Basically, there was this huge fire on the same day as the closing of the Olympics. And some people out there, you know who you are, and I know who you are. We all know who you are, think that this has something to do with some sort of false flag event that happened. And back to the term false flag, people, some of you out there, you know who you are. We know who you are. You're using the term false flag incorrectly. A false flag is a military or terrorist event done under the disguise of a different faction or country as to rile people up and to instigate military action in war. For instance, 9/11, the planes, Al-Qaeda did it, Afghanistan did it, or whatever. Many of us out there, the truthers, believe that's differently. The USS Liberty. Okay, so Hitler and the Reichstag burning. That is a false flag. Okay, a virus or an attack. If there was an attack on the Olympics and they said it was the Syrians or the Iranians or the people from Naboo or whatever, that would be a false flag. If it was just some homegrown terrorists or radical Christians wanting to make a mark, that is not a false flag. I want to get into this, but I'm just kind of tired of hearing false flag, false flag, false flag. Why none of them ever happen? I buy into this stuff. I was a supporter of Drake. A lot of people were, because he had a great story going there. There'd be all these mass arrests of the evil bankers and politicians, and we'd return to the original Constitution. We'd have financial jubilees, blah, blah, that, blah, blah, that. Sounded great, sounded wonderful, but a lot of people, even like Kerry Cassidy and Sean Morton were first buying it, but then when they started thinking about the logistics of something like that happening, people started questioning. So anyway, I do fall for some of these things, and I don't get disappointed that nothing bad happened, but I do worry about, say, like a big West Coast earthquake, or the heavy mass object or something. I worry about my family and certainly myself, and then nothing happens. Why did I get all worried about that? I actually, the last 3 days, was not really on following radio. I just didn't have internet connection. Wasn't paying attention to the news, and I had a bit of a news shakes. The DTs for the news for a little bit. But I kind of found, that sometimes you just need to take a few days, a week, 2 weeks away from all this doom and gloom and these, predictions of invasions, and get your bug out bags ready, and get away from the coast, and nuclear bombs, and then UFOs shooting at us and stuff, and it can get to you. Although, entertaining and certainly founded in truth in certain ways, it can be overwhelming. So we go on that with, why is the subject of UFOs weird? This is an editorial over here on the Huffington Post, which always has a bunch of funny stuff, strange stuff. So this guy, actually, it's a blog contribution. Actually, I have a blog on Huffington Post, and I never really write on it. I should get back to doing that. So this is from R.W. Sanders, retired writer and musician, who the article says, "Skeptics versus believers. Let's do the math on UFOs." Hey, I didn't hear a break. I certainly hope I'm on the radio. I don't see anyone saying El Hierro. So far, only 4 quakes occurred at El Hierro today. In addition, some deflation of about 2 cm has been registered over the past few days, suggesting that magma is withdrawing from under the island. This is from Earthplay. I believe, winds are only 45 miles per hour and still a tropical storm. So Isaac is still a tropical storm, but leaving it there. I guess this is a volcano coming up from El Hierro. I'll look into that a little bit more later. So this guy, R.T. Sanders, writes about why are UFOs weird. And he writes, "It seems every time I pursue a website addressing the UFO subject, I see articles from skeptics that usually begin with a title such as, 'Is this a UFO or a tractor?' This just seems like shooting fish in a barrel. Of course it's a tractor, or a balloon, or Jupiter, or swamp gas. The fact that most of all who are interested in the subject would agree that all but a few percent of sightings reported are explainable as some kind of natural object or phenomenon. So do we really need an article that exemplifies that well-known fact? Of course it is a tractor. It's just a tractor that looks a lot like a spaceship when we see it in the right light. Most agree that about 5% of sightings are unknown. That being the case, the believers are beginning to struggle with the odds looking pretty bad for our side. Of all UFO cases, skeptics can write about 95% of them, while believers are stuck with a measly 5%. Doesn't seem fair somehow. Nonetheless, the result of this inequity is that the believers research the hell out of their 5%, while skeptics just point out tractors and planets and swamp gas and usually act superior. I'm not taking phone calls. Not because I'm rejecting you, only because the version of Skype I'm on, I don't know how to bring them in. I can bring people in from Skype, however, if you want to. I only have 20 minutes left here anyway. And our roundtable will be starting up after I get off, and you can call in then. Most agree that about 5% of sightings are unknown. I already said that. Stanton Freeman has a very good formula that defines skeptics at his website. And though the father of Roswell ufology is pretty savage in the way he treats skeptics, they are usually no less in their treatment of believers. But Stan can cite decades of research on one incident, which obviously leads to expertise. Most skeptics spend very little time researching one incident, comparatively speaking. But then that's what happens when you only have 5% of the total with which to work. But seriously, with all the new science happening and the building consensus that we will find life outside this planet, isn't it time to quit talking about swamp gas? A good first step in this process would be if the mainstream media would become less snarky on the subject. Is it any wonder that true experts tend to avoid mainstream news shows? James Fox, an otherwise well-respected UFO researcher, learned this lesson when he agreed to star in Chasing UFOs on the National Geographic Channel. He seemed more surprised than anyone at the final cut made by the network, which as usual made a mockery of the entire subject. James found out that he was appearing in just one more show where people run around at night with fancy equipment, but this one just features more profanity. How many more blank hunter shows do we need anyway? Yeah, I mean, you go over to YouTube, there's plenty of UFO things on YouTube. And a lot of them are obviously CGIs, fakes. At least to me and other people who watch these things. But so many people want to believe. They want so desperately to believe that that is the UFO. That is the Galactic Council of Light. These are the Arcturians, the Pleiadians here to come save us and help us, and blah, blah, blah. Lizard people. That they want to believe it so bad that they're not going to even consider that it's fake. And, a lot of people who want to believe and want to know, but they've never seen a UFO, spaceship or whatever. They're constantly looking up in the sky. I always say, you're just not looking. All you have to do is look up and just look. At some point, there's things flying around out there. A lot of things are flying around in ultraviolet light spectrum. So if you use night goggles, night vision, stuff like that, you're more apt to see them. I've gone on that trip. They do them here in the Southern California. I've seen some pretty strange lights flying around and shooting at each other with the night vision goggles. I've seen my fair share of unexplainable things up close. I have seen the giant black triangles. I've seen the TR-3Bs. I've seen saucers, glowing saucers. So I know those things are out there. Are they government? Are they alien? That's for another thing. However, they are out there. But don't feel that they're necessarily the good guys. Some people say you could just call forth UFOs. If you see a UFO, a ship or something, you can mentally ask it, hey, come get me. Hey, I'm here. Talk to me. Well, you got to be a little cautious about that because you don't know who's flying them. It could be some of those blah, blah, blah lizard people. You will wind up being their dinner. Or you'll be wind up on a medical table face down, naked, and getting a strange tattoo. These things happen. And my cats are fighting here. So, okay, let's go to some kind of racy here, or not. CBS New York is reporting that a New Jersey man is accused of sexually abusing a sleeping woman during a flight. Air travel is tough enough without having to worry about bad behavior from fellow passengers. A North Bergen man is accused of sexually abusing a woman who fell asleep during a 5-hour United Airlines flight from Phoenix to Newark Liberty Airport. Bauer Escal, 48, was arrested Tuesday when the plane landed. News story, I just lost it. According to prosecutors, Escal was seated next to a woman who had the window seat. They didn't know each other. At one point during the flight, prosecutors said the woman fell asleep. When she woke up, prosecutors said Escal had one hand in her shorts and another in her shirt. According to an FBI complaint, Escal, who was breathing heavily, and whispered to the victim, "Kiss me." Prosecutors said the alarmed woman told Escal to get off her and slammed down the armrest. She then told a member of the flight crew what happened. The victim's story was backed up by the passenger sitting on the other side of Escal. who was isolated on the plane after the alleged incident and arrested as soon as the flight landed. Police said the flight crew, to female travelers, it was an alarming reminder to be aware of fellow travelers. It makes you think now when you get on a plane, it's something else to worry about, said Susan Pear of Brick. You never think of an incident like that, more like someone doing something to the safety of the plane, not the safety of you, she added. According to the complaint, Ascal was interviewed by law enforcement officers when the plane landed and read his rights. Nonetheless, according to the complaint, Ascal admitted to groping the woman. Okay, so now we would probably find out that this guy Ascal worked for the TSA. You know, they just get into the habit of groping and feeling. You know, maybe he saw her getting groped and feeled by some TSA agents and wanted to get in on the action. Yeah. Right. But, you know, he admits to it, which comes to another story. This one's local for me. Man accused of killing wife yells, "I'm guilty," in court. I remember this case for a couple of reasons, which I'll get into. But it says that this is here in San Diego. A man accused of fatally stabbing his 19-year-old estranged wife in a San Diego City College restroom nearly 2 years ago pleaded not guilty Wednesday to a murder charge and was ordered held without bail. Armando Perez, 39, was handed over to San Diego homicide detectives Tuesday after his extradition from Mexico City. Perez was arrested in Tijuana in February in connection with the October 12, 2010 slaying of Diana Gonzalez. Why this is of interest to me, I saw the arrest go down. I was there in February, and I saw these guys, these federal cops, about block and a half away from me where I was walking down the street, just converge on this guy. You know, like 10 of these federal guys in their masks and guns, who I had some experience with yesterday, which I'll get into that maybe later on. But anyway, I remember him getting arrested and thinking, what a dumb guy. I mean, he'd been hiding out in Mexico for a year. They couldn't find him, and he probably did something stupid that led to him. It says Perez, who is charged with murder and a special circumstance allegation of lying in wait, faces life in prison without parole if convicted. U.S. authorities agree not to seek the death penalty in return for the defendant's extradition from Mexico. So a lot of times murderers will flee to Mexico because if they're facing possible death penalty, Mexico won't extradite them because they don't have the death penalty down there. So usually prosecutors will have to agree not to do it, and plus if it's a fellow citizen who was killed in the USA, they'll usually do it. It says the victim's sister, Jeanette Gonzalez, cursed at the defendant in Spanish as soon as Deputy Public Defender Kevin Milmo entered the not guilty plea on behalf of Perez. The defendant was taken into a holding cell where he asked Superior Court Judge Robert F. O'Neill why he had to plead guilty. Not guilty. Why do I have to plead not guilty? He asked. As the defendant was ultimately let out of the courtroom, he said, "I'm guilty, all right. Don't tell me not to be guilty. I'm guilty. I killed her." Yes, well, there are reasons why they prefer you to plead not guilty. In arraignment court, those judges aren't prepared to handle the guilty charges and sentencing and all that stuff. You know, those get arraignment court is just presiding judge who just pushes paperwork. Often, sometimes not even a judge, maybe a commissioner or a magistrate. So, not guilty is just par for the course. Seems like this guy he's admitting it that he killed his wife. So why not? It says that Deputy District Attorney Teresa Santana told the judge that the couple wed in December 2009. You know, he was in his 30s, she was 19, so it was obviously some kind of weird marriage. There was a lot of domestic violence. He was perched in a tree waiting for her when she was coming out of her classes. He left her body in the men's bathroom, as I remember. I thought he strangled her, but they're saying that she was stabbed multiple times, and a janitor or somebody found her body in the men's restroom on San Diego City College, which, interesting enough, San Diego City College, which the area it's in used to be a pretty bad part of town, and certainly improved with the mobilization of the hipsters down there. San Diego City College has in the past a lot of murders on that campus. So I wouldn't recommend walking around there at night if you happen to want to go to San Diego City College. Okay, what do we have here? We got 10 minutes left. So, I don't want to talk about my incident yesterday in Tijuana. Basically, we're the new place we moved into in Rosarito. Apparently, the condo next to us had been running a massage parlor happy ending or something, call girls out of it. Of course, we were new there. We didn't know anything about it. But, they came into our apartment, it was all right, or, the child, blah, 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 some excuse, and started asking me a lot of personal questions. I showed them my press pass. Apparently, my status as VIP, don't bug this guy status is still good in their computer system from when the Mexican consulate put it in there several years ago. And so they got a little nervous wondering who I was, asking me if I worked for the government, the U.S. government. Because usually when federal guys see that sort of status, it's usually, a Homeland Security or CIA working there in those areas. No, I was just telling them I don't even work full-time as a reporter down there anymore. I'm just do some stringer work, and I'm working on a book about the Tijuana drug cartel's 25-year reign. But anyway, I wasn't very happy about 5 federal cops with ski masks and AK-47s and stuff coming into my new home with my 16-month-old daughter there. She was scared. So was my nanny. The mother of my daughter, as I call her, wasn't there. She was out doing some stuff. Anyway, it was just a pain in the butt, but kind of funny, that they were running an escort service, because I did remember seeing some girl coming out of there who was dressed in a nurse's outfit, and I just thought she was a nurse. I didn't know it was like a costume. I did kind of think it was a little too weird. I mean, it was the sort of white costume, Red Cross nurse thing, not how nurses actually dress today. But it didn't really cross my mind what was going on. Funny stuff. Funny things. Anneli Rufus is writing that edible bottles and edible bags are coming. Harvard University scientists have developed a material that can be used to wrap, bottle, and otherwise package food, which tastes like the food it contains and can be eaten after or before you eat the food. So basically, you go get a burrito. It's wrapped up in paper, which also tastes like a burrito. So you just eat it all. You don't need no necessity for trash. You get a drink, and you can eat the bottle after you drink it. Why not? I like it. eBay is going to prohibit the selling of psychic and other paranormal services. There are a lot of psychics who and mediums and stuff like that who offer their wares on eBay. They'll give you tarot readings or past life readings and stuff like that for either a set price or you bid on them. But it looks like eBay doesn't want to do that anymore. But we know that eBay, PayPal, Facebook, Twitter, probably Skype are all now operated, run, and compromised by CIA, NSA, FBI, NFL, for Moose Lodge or whatever, that they've taken over a lot of the social media things. So that's what's happening on eBay. So if you're psychic out there and you offer your psychic services on eBay, you ain't gonna be able to do it anymore. Who we have here? Just looking at some quick news here. How to become a real mermaid. Okay. How do you become a real mermaid? Who cares? see. A death row inmate asked only for a single olive for his last meal. You know, maybe if he hadn't had an olive, I would have ordered the martini with the olive. Let's see here. Paranormal files of the Navajo Rangers. Dover and Milford say that in one case, the animal says she fallen by the growing organ. Okay. Stuart Swerdlow has a article here on Huffington Post. It says, "Are you a Martian? The intrigue and mystery and allure of the red planet." You know, I'm not going to read something that Stuart Swerdlow wrote because it's probably full of triggers and programming codes. The guy creeps me out, kind of like Julian Assange. Yeah, you know, our news cruncher, Jason, had said earlier today that something about Assange really creeps him out. And he believes that Julian Assange, the WikiLeaks guy, is actually a CIA op. I happen to believe that as well. You know, there's a story I was going to read, and where is it at? Darn it, did I lose it? Okay, it was a story about some nurse who had treated the Denver victims was mysteriously died. I think there's some cases. You know, actually, I'm going to leave that for a different time. My time's coming up, but Sean Martin, our friend Sean Martin, who's amongst us, but now in Europe, he believes, and I'm starting to lean towards this, that the whole Denver, whatever happened there, was actually just to get one person, and that was that woman who was actually in a different shooting situation in Canada. It seems kind of strange that she would be involved in two of these things, and apparently she was speaking out, or maybe she was supposed to have been killed in that other one, and that the one in Denver was actually just a methodology